We're face to face with Shuri. She tells our boy he's a good person, but she can't keep going out with a nobody who's going nowhere. She's at that age where she has to think about marriage. She wants to put her uterus to work. The poor guy hesitates but doesn't say a word. Meanwhile, she's tearing into him, saying all her friends are marrying well-known guys from powerful companies, and him, one look is enough to tell, you know. He's the classic beta. She stands up, and now I'm impressed. How is this kid even managing to date someone this intense? I'm starting to believe, because if he can pull that off with that body, the boy's got potential. Just not right now, because she got up and left him there completely wrecked. They'd been together 5 years, and he just got brutally dumped. He knows it too. That's when he decided to shut himself in his room and turn into a gaming addict. The game is called Pangare, and it also got popular 5 years ago. But it's so hard nobody ever beat that thing, so the player count just kept dropping. This cursed pile of pixels feeds on how many times you get betrayed, hunted, and attacked by absurd monsters. And what made everyone even angrier was that when you die, everything disappears. There's no saving here. It's almost real life. Our boy had 8 of the 13 rarest items in the game, but he died and lost everything. Still, when your character dies, you get soul points for what you achieved, and he just got 1.6 million. He's in shock. Apparently those unique items he had were worth a lot. He usually plays it safe, spending a little here and a little there, but since the girl who wants to fill her uterus just dumped him, he loses it. He's going to throw all 1.6 million at once into the same character. Let's go. Lights everywhere. Congratulations, you satisfied the singularity. You've been invited to Pangaea. And then comes the classic freakout. The kid's shaking all over. A voice says the world he created is going to burn in the flames of hell. That's it. He's done for. The kid doesn't understand what voice that is, and he goes full Kirito. The message still tells him to find happiness in Pangaea. But then he wakes up getting whipped by Habib, yelling at the bastard to get up, or he'll be fed to a raid dragon. The protagonist has no idea what a raid dragon even is. He looks to the side, there are paws, a whole crowd of slaves getting whipped too. He can't understand what situation this is. A bunch of monsters. He's chained up and he gets whipped again. Move, you little bastard. They're saying he's going to die. He's furious. Scorching sun and he's got no Jordans on his feet. He's watching the area and realizing that monster really does look like something from Pangaea. The place feels familiar too. He does the classic status window. It pops up in front of him. All his stats are 12. He's got a ton of talents plus a bunch of hidden secret talents. And there's also something about destruction at 6.1%. If that hits 10, the first fracture will happen. He looks around, there are a lot of slaves here, aren't there? Reality hits, he really is in Pangaea. But why are all his stats at 12? Normally the cap is 1 to 10, and it's super rare to have a stat at 10. His are all above that. On top of that, he has 13 secret attributes. Void, Dexterity, Master of all weapons, Demon resistance, a bunch of stuff. Before he can get his first answer, the ground starts shaking and Habib looks ahead, sweating cold. Way out on the horizon, there's a swarm of creatures coming, and I can already make out a girl just from the silhouette sitting on top of one of them. Is some goth girl coming to hunt him? And the protagonist recognizes her, the Snake Princess. The main quest generates immediately, survive. Rewards vary depending on the result. Legolas must be on the other side because a rain of arrows comes down on the guys. Habib and his crew are getting wiped out. But the protagonist just stands there stoic. Secret trait, Heart of Blood Steel. A linked attribute that only appears when all physical stats are maxed. Hold on, Habib's people are attacking Habib's people. It's basically a Middle East war like we're in Afghanistan. Our boy doesn't feel like dying. One of them comes to stab him in the back. He grabs the guy by the hilt, turns, flashes, and slices him. First kill on the server and first aura farm with the Sword Master talent activating. The baggy pants guys come rushing in. The protagonist glances sideways and look at that. Andrew Tate showed up to throw a spear at him, but he cuts through the blade and the guy together. He snatches the spear out of the air and drives it into the guy's chest, Sparta style. He realizes he can use any weapon like an expert. Another one comes charging straight at him, but he dodges. Watching every movement of the blade, he slides his sword underneath with perfect control and redirects the attack. And he's seeing these lines leading to the guy's chest. He plants the strike right along that path and stabs him. He steals the axe from the guy he disarmed and splits him in half too. That's the rage you get from a kid who just got dumped. The Habib crew is in shock. How are they supposed to deal with this guy? They can't. They'll never have the kind of anger he has, because if their woman dumps them, they hit her and that's it. The protagonist also has proficient hands, which makes him learn weapons faster than normal. And he's already got spear and sword at level 6. And the max is 10. He's already at 6. This is completely broken. Even so, he knows not even a miracle is going to keep him alive here. There are more than 500 troops. How is he getting out of this? Scene change, we're in Game of Thrones territory. Apparently, to be a strong woman in this world, you have to be hot. No ugly skinny women giving orders around here. And she's furious because some expedition to the Demon Lord's world failed. The Snake Princess apologizes and warns that if they, the Desert City, don't take part in the expedition, the Lycians from the Central Continent will say it's their fault. She, as the head of the Kultzman Desert, has to eliminate anyone slowing things down and erase any evidence that person sent troops at all. Basically, she wants to remove any chance of them being linked to the expedition's failure. And if she does that, a certain curse will be removed from the Snake Princess. She doesn't look happy about it, but says she understands. Back to the fight. She asks a kneeling guy if it's all finished. He says there's still one person holding on. She's confused. What do you mean, one person? Back again, bodies everywhere, and the protagonist still standing. He's exhausted and reached level 2. My god, leveling in this game is brutal. At least his mana and health got restored, and fatigue got removed. He's more dangerous than before. The turban guys are shaking, until the princess tells everyone to move aside. The protagonist looks up and immediately recognizes Isabella von der Seen, level 8 and acting like she's something special? Come on. Then again, leveling is hard, so she must have killed a lot of people. She can't leave this area because of a curse from the Desert Queen. He can't see her status, talents, or skills because he doesn't know enough about her. He knows that even with talent, there's no way he beats someone at level 8. This game is so weird, the level cap is 10. So right now it's like a level 20 guy fighting a level 80 woman. You know? That's the vibe. And from level 8 onward, you're considered strong anywhere in the world. Basically the bosses of famous organizations. Having to face her right at the start is a disaster. But he's interested in the fact she has that curse. Isabella comes down and says his little show was interesting, but he has to die. Calm down. Talk to him. The protagonist is stunned, because the reason he played Pangaea, a hard-hated game, is pretty obvious. He liked the character designs. He was a perv, basically. And then, right when she advances beautifully to finish him off and swings for the kill, he just says, "You want to lift the queen's curse." I thought he was going to pull some weird armpit scratch technique or something. I got scared. Thanks to that, Isabella hesitates for a second and steps in close, wanting to know who he is and how he knows that. Out of nowhere, the protagonist turns into a 15-year-old teenage girl and says he can read the stars and see the signs. He can see people's futures in the sky, and he can remove her curse so she can leave the desert. When she looks surprised and hesitates for a second, he figures it worked. That Starbearer class is something only NPCs can have, and for a player to access it, they have to be max level. And the way to solve the queen's curse is by giving a blessing that only that class can do. The artist definitely pulled the rest of her outfit down on purpose to make the panel look good, and he knows that since she wants to escape this place, she obviously won't want to kill him. And the reason she wants to escape so badly that she'll protect him is because Isabella is a character he created. So the game's characters were all made by him. Hopefully the kid is actually talented. He says she's a character he ended up neglecting because he picked the wrong thing at the start. The curse is something you can choose to farm more in a region, but it traps you there. Still, it doesn't make sense for him to make that mistake, because the character's goal should have been to beat the game. Isabella asks his name and he says Randolph. What an ugly name. She stares him down, turns with those wide hips and says she'll spare him for now. But if he's lying, she'll tear him in half. Then she orders her people to take him and treat him nicely. With that, the first survival quest is completed, and he breaks a record. So perfect, it's almost miraculous. Beginner's luck, the constellations smile on you and your reward gets upgraded. He gets a broken piece of the Castle of Scales, a high dragon soul, and Michaela's sword. He's exhausted and collapses. Wait, didn't he just level up and get his energy back? Was talking to her that intense? Total points 220. Night falls. He's in a bathtub. What is this? They're really taking care of him. Easy life. Now because of that high dragon soul, he can summon one up to level 5 and control it. He knows that item is infamous and only dropped a handful of times in the whole game. And on top of that, he also got Michaela's sword. The only thing he doesn't recognize is that broken scale piece. Then the door opens and a bunch of girls come in with towels, asking if he wants them to bathe him. He says, just the feet, and maybe a little calf too. But he starts thinking he's being tested. Look at those feet spreading the toes. Those long feet look like hands. These are Isabella's chambermaids, and they're grown. And if he shows any reaction, they'll get suspicious. Suspicious of what? Oh no. But the Starbearer class doesn't have any carnal desire. Let's say it like that. So he has to stay completely calm. I would have died right there. That would have been it for me. He stays sharp and opens the system to hide the women. And then he sees the first Pangagenia fracture is already at 7.66. He checks the quest rankings and sees he's number 1 with 220 points. But there's also someone named Gracia with 95, so that guy isn't weak. He looks uneasy while the girl in front calls him Starbearer. He was thinking more about Gracia and about I love mint chocolate people. He knew. He thought those guys had quit playing because they disappeared, but it looks like everyone got sent into this game. And he sees that since he's ranked as a survivor, he has the option to log out. But while he's logged out, his character stays kind of exposed and unprotected. So he snaps, "Go on, get out of here, you big-chested girls. I need to communicate with the stars. I've got things to do." The girl doesn't really get it, but says, okay. Door closes. He relaxes, at least that useless excuse worked for something. He's desperate to get out of the game, clicking log out and all that digital stuff. We're in his room, and then, oh god, he's screwed. The whole city is on fire. Yeah, it was never going to be that easy. The poor guy thought he was going back to an easy life, but nope. Everyone's running, phones are ringing with emergency alerts, and he sees a creature right there on the balcony outside the window, screaming in his direction. Immediately he wonders why Pangania monsters are in the real world, and then, oops, another little golden stone falls out of his pocket. Is he gonna be a monster in the real world too? Nothing better than humiliating that damn empty uterus girl. She's gonna want babies from our boy Chad, but that's not happening. He remembers everything that went down in the game and starts wondering if maybe he fell asleep, dreamed all of it, and now he's actually back for real. Then he puts his hand over his face and goes, "Oh my god, I really lost it," thinking I ended up inside a web novel. Guys, I don't know if you noticed, but there's a giant insect outside your house. So yeah, something is obviously still very wrong. That's when he also sees that little golden pebble thing in front of him, with a pouch, and he wonders if he ever had anything like that in real life. He just shoves it in his pocket and decides to check what's going on with the game, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. The protagonist hears people talking about monsters. Oh, we got a little flashback, right? Now he's seeing all the monsters. Look at those poor cops throwing basically nothing at the creature while the guy gets eaten alive. It finally clicks for him. Something is connecting Pangasian to Ponquil. And then he gets an idea. Maybe the stuff he had in the game can be used here too. Right away, he pulls out Michaela's sword and the High Dragon's soul. He doesn't really know how to use them, but the system just says turn it on and off. Last 24 hours, good luck. An angel appears and the fragment's timer starts ticking down. Out in the streets, people are taking the forever nap. A mother runs up screaming, "My daughter, help." The poor girl's in her arms like, "Mom, where's Dad? He's coming, he's coming." "Yeah, look up, you're headed straight to hell." I swear, I said that thinking she was about to get saved by the protagonist. Nope, she just gets crushed. A young woman with short hair comes running over asking if she's okay, until she sees the woman is pinned, and she still manages to say something. "Please, I'm fine, take my child with you." The fact she can even speak is a miracle. The girl grabs the child, but when she turns around, the monster is coming in for a huge bite. There's no way the protagonist doesn't save them now. Whew, our Chad shows up with the clutch slash. The way he looks so cool and just slices through everything. Wait, hold on, does he look like his in-game character? The girl's relieved she survived and wonders who this guy is. But it's not over. Another one comes from behind and his aura starts building. Actually, wait, his dragon just ate the thing and is standing there like it's nothing. This guy is pure flex. It's Michaela's beast, and he's already climbed up on its head and told the girl to stay right there. She's thinking she has to be dreaming. Something is seriously off. The little girl slips out of her arms to look at her mom flattened on the ground, while the girl just watches the protagonist cutting everything down. Classic setup. Monsters show up in Korea and all over the world to destroy civilization. But along with them, some heroes appear too. The troll throws his sword and tells everyone not to worry. They're going to save everybody. Of course, like always, not every hero is a good person. There's a guy in a living room somewhere, lounging, saying they're idiots for wasting their fragment of the golden scale. Because now it's confirmed that over time the two worlds are going to merge, and in the chaos era that's coming, it's everyone against everyone. Fragments equal power, and everyone's competing to see who becomes the real protagonist. He just wants to know who this insane kid is, with 220 points at rank 1. He wonders if it's Phantom, a secret player nobody knew, who kept breaking a ton of records. The first one to do an expedition with NPCs, even though it failed completely. That guy was undeniably Pangasian's #1. Because even if your appearance and gear reset, some attributes and talents carry over to the next character. And he knows exactly how that bastard got such a high score, by spending 1.6 million points and grabbing 3 broken stats. The protagonist is back in the bathtub thinking the situation is pretty clear. With his last character who almost reached the end of the game and caused the deaths of countless NPCs and a bunch of betrayals, something got changed. There's a strong chance other players like him are in this world now too. Yeah, no kidding, since the game has rankings. Not exactly Sherlock, sorry. What he does know is that Pangasian is a brutal game where everyone wants to steal everyone else's items, and he knows he's going to be a target. And the really hard part is he has to keep things safe in 2 different worlds. So the only option is to get strong fast, so he opens the gate. Snake Girl wants to know if he's done with his little chat with the stars. He says he came to keep his promise, but he's got one condition. She gets it and tells the chubby ones to leave the room. Then he tells Isabella to take him to the sanctuary. That's serious enough that she says he must be losing his mind. But he knows the second quest to get a class happens there, so he lies and says there's a star there. Looks like he really does play Pangasian. He's fooling everyone. This girl works fast. Next chapter, she's walking through a room with blood everywhere, full of dead Habib. The protagonist shocked it only took her a few minutes to wipe out all the guards. A few hours earlier, when he asked to be taken to the sanctuary, she said he was insane. When he started talking about a star, she wanted to know what he was even saying. And apparently it's true, he says he found the 4th star by luck, while leveling his last character. He's one of the few players who knows the exact location and how to use that star to remove her curse. She hesitates, saying nobody knows about the sanctuary, and he's lying, but he cuts her off and says she does know, and she can go in. Yeah, he created her, so it's easy. Wait, if he created her, isn't that kind of like a daughter? No, we're not going there, forget it. What did I just do? I'm deleting that thought. So now he's talking to his creation, who's a woman completely separate from him, telling her this is a sacred place, but it feels kind of evil. The system says he entered the sanctuary and rewards will be given based on how much he explores. Uh-oh, but his level doesn't match the area. Level 8. What level are you supposed to be to enter this? Wait, isn't this where you get your 2nd class? What is this? Do you get your 2nd class at the end of the game? He's tanking the poison thanks to the giant demon resistance talent. And wow, she looks huge in this panel. Someone nerf her. He knows the easy solution is to send Isabella ahead and let her grab the rewards. But that's not what matters right now because he's here to get the sanctuary class, and the mission ends the moment he gets it, apparently. Okay, got it. It's a challenge, and the better he performs, the better the class he gets, and he's aiming for a specific one. Isabella's just watching. Oh look, the artist again. I get it. This angle is your thing. Respect for the creativity. She turns and says, we took the wrong path, but the protagonist grabs her shoulder. Where do you think you're going? She says the bridge ahead is obviously a trap. The air platform was made so nobody can cross, they'll get knocked off. But he just goes, what? You scared? Didn't know you were that type. She crosses her arms, pissed, telling him to remember she's the princess of snakes. She's not afraid. He cuts in and says she actually is scared. She tries to tell him to give up because it's probably full of traps, but he just says, come on, hop on my back. She's even angrier, saying he's gone crazy, but he tells her to remember. Once they find all the Habib guards dead, they'll send a search team after her. So instead of wasting time, they need to finish this fast and get out. She gets shy but clings to him, saying if it weren't for the leg cramp she has, she'd handle it herself. All he's thinking about is satisfying his curiosity and learning everything about the game. He tells her to hold on and takes off running. But instead of going right where there are a bunch of paths, he goes straight while she yells at him not to jump too late. Obviously he has a plan. He activates the mutant's secret trait. It lets him see all the hidden secrets invisible to the human eye. You little cheater. Are you walking on invisible stairs? That's some broken gamer nonsense. The girl is like, what the hell is this? You're walking on air. He tells her to relax, but she's furious, asking why he's so confident. Then the author gets weird. She feels like he's treating her like an old friend he hasn't seen in years. Huh. So she asks, have we met before? He says no, they've never been in the same place. She's confused. What does that mean? He says, let's just say I've seen you, but you've never seen me. The room fills with light. Next scene, they're in an open field. Straight up Sword Art Online vibes. They crossed a barrier domain, the kind where you only see what's beyond it after you pass through. He starts wondering if his memory is right when a red eye appears among some rocks. No, actually the rocks stand up. They've got red eyes and a core in the middle of their chest. He knows the regional guardians are golems, and judging by the size, they're at least upper tier. One hit and he's dead, so it's time to put her to work. He goes, go on then. Weren't you saying your leg was messed up? Guess it's better now. Before he even finishes talking, a golem swings in with a punch, pure One Punch Man energy. She gives this wild little smile, like Captain Levi, arm up slicing through. Well, not exactly. She just lifts the huge sword and cuts everything apart. She jumps from rock to rock, killing the stone monsters while the protagonist stands there with his arms crossed, thinking an assassin class really is perfect for this. She dodges the wide, slow golem attacks easily, and her blade keeps carving through them. That's the power of a level 8 stone rain. He got the golem creator class, and he's interested, because it looks like Isabella's kills are being counted as his, just from the way he says it. Yeah, in Pangagenia, summoners are a strong class. I already know there's no way he's picking that. Next panel, not the class I want. He refuses. He wants something totally different, and he still doesn't say what he wants. But then purple mist starts spreading across the ground. Now there's a massive shadow behind him. The ancient king, master of the mountain, buried as the nameless star, shows hatred toward the invaders. The protagonist is thrilled the bastard showed up, the higher god who guards the stars, known as Dramut. What he really wants is a gigantic serpent, and the recommended level is 10. He feels crushing pressure and wonders if that's what a god's presence feels like. The girl freezes and tells him he must be out of his mind if he thinks she can handle a guardian like that. The idiot says it doesn't bite right as it almost bites her. The giant snake has its tongue out, and he's confused. This creature in theory was supposed to be friendly, and the boss says, challenger of the sanctuary, defeat me and prove your qualification. She's terrified, saying she didn't come here to kill anyone. Then the snake tells her to remember she just killed the sentinels, so clearly she already crossed that line. The serpent swings its tail again and she runs, shouting that she's not here because of it. She came because this guy dragged her here. The protagonist is stunned. Last time he cleared this place, he didn't have to kill Dramut. Something is wrong with his memory. He explains that King Dramut is a massive creature that gains intelligence from the spiritual energy of the stars, and he cleared this place back when he was a level 10 5-star transcendental character. When he arrived, Dramut obediently guided him to the stars. The reason is probably that he was qualified. So basically the thing attacks you if you're weaker than it. So what's he gonna do? Because Snake Girl is getting attacked from every direction, and she can't react properly because the sanctuary's poison is making her body sluggish. Trusting him and coming here was a stupid mistake. The creature is about to finish her off with a huge sweeping strike, when suddenly he tells the monster to stop. When he calls it Dramut, it turns and asks how the boy knows its name. Then the protagonist says his master Wilhelm has returned. The giant snake turns and asks if he really is Wilhelm. Then it starts laughing. Snake laughter is awful. It sounds like it's about to unhinge its jaw and swallow you whole. And it says the idiot in front of it didn't even prepare to receive the stars. He's weaker than any of its golems, and now he's claiming he's the great Wilhelm. He tells the kid to understand that that name belongs to a powerful human, a transcendent, someone who deserved to be his master. But since he failed on a simple expedition like this, he doesn't deserve anything, except obviously to learn what death feels like. Damn, he really ran his mouth. But then the protagonist tells Dramut to honor the contract they made. The monster stops again. Everyone's been hacking at this beast, and asks how he even knows about the contract. Nobody should know about that. The protagonist says that in the so-called star contract, you learn the mountain guardian's true name and become the new master. After that, the mountain guardian starts obeying the master, and nothing about the contract can be revealed to other people. If it gets revealed, whoever broke the contract gets hit with death as the curse. The protagonist says he has a huge advantage because he knows how the game works, but he's in a different body, so the curse doesn't affect him. The boss tells him to spit it out already. What is the creature standing in front of him? And the protagonist says, if you want to know who I am, let the stars guide me, and I'll prove it. Drama is sure he's lying because the star trial shows no mercy. The moment he got close, he'd be burned alive in pure flames. The protagonist, though, says, it sounds like Drama is scared the trial will reveal he really is the true master. The monster laughs like he'd ever be tamed by someone who'd die from a single bite. But fine, he'll let the kid burn in the eternal flames. He just has to follow him. A little later, Isabelle asks if that's where the star is hidden. The protagonist says yes, right there, on top of the altar. There's a skull there, and she asks if the skull is the star. The protagonist answers, this is Leah's face. When the twin goddess of Pangania died, her body was cut into 32 fragments and scattered across the continent. Each fragment is called a star, and they're catalysts used to create transcendent power in players. With the huge skeleton in his hands and flames spinning around the protagonist, Isabella stays outside asking if he's sure this is going to work. Dramat laughs and says he warned him. Just getting close to the star, he got devoured by flames. Of course he was rejected, and now he's dead. But the protagonist is still in there, pissed off, asking if that bastard seriously doesn't trust him. And the truth is, the star only rejects a player in one situation. If you use a secret bug where you don't even meet Dramat. Even though he didn't kill Dramat, he passed in a way the beast approved, so there shouldn't be any problem. The real question is whether he'll get the class he actually wants. Because it says that if you take a class from the star before you have any class at all, you get to choose. And he's asking for the void. Oh wait, the skull is looking at all his talents. Master of the skillful hand, Lord of beasts, mutant golden grace. Since he had already faced destruction, he would receive the explosive glow little stone burst. Mana gets converted into star energy. He gains the abilities Pierce the Stars and Blessing of the Stars, all stats +5, and he gains even more stats as the number of stars he has increases. Looks like that's what he wanted, because he obtains Star Successor. Isabella is standing there confused. Wait, where's the skull? It vanished. Then he asks her what she wants to do with her life once her curse is removed. Isabella says she wants to leave the desert and find a bloodline from the Dursium family. But the kid isn't going to let her just walk away. He says he'll let her leave the desert on one condition. She has to serve him for a year. After that, he guarantees her freedom to go look for that bloodline. Right away, Isabella realizes she's a slave again, just like she was with the Desert Queen. Nothing changed. The protagonist puts a hand on her shoulder and says, I'm not the queen, I don't lie. He literally just lied. He said he'd free her, but now he's slapping a contract on her as the condition for freeing her. And she talks back hard, says she'll serve him. She even kneels down. He didn't ask for all that. He only asked for help for 1 year. Still, he thanks her and says she made a good decision. Now Dramut better remember that he really is the master, and the giant snake is sweating when it realizes it really is that damn Wilhelm. Then the protagonist orders her to lower her head. At least the second mission, getting a class, was a success. The scene switches to the Desert Queen, furious, demanding to know how they let that damn Isabella escape. She immediately orders the Habibs to go get the two of them right now. Blue sky, peaceful vibes, and someone's asking if Randolph really is Phantom. A guy says that if you ignore the main quest, getting a score like that is impossible, unless it's that kid. The 5-year player finally showed up, and it's going to cause chaos. No idea who the twins are, but they want to know how they can contact the kid before anyone else does. The e-girl says she searched for him for years and never found him. The other one says maybe that's because Phantom wasn't in the real game. Now that he is, there has to be a way. If he just entered the game, he must be clearing the early missions like Quest 2, so this is a good chance. The blonde suggests using something called phishing. It's a scheme where you list a rare item that few players know the value of. Then you attach a twin talisman to that item, and when someone buys it, you locate them and kill them. Basically, it's a way to hunt players through sales. The brothers think it's weird that Phantom would fall for something like that, but the blonde is shaking, warning there's a chance he will. He's the type who likes taking risks and makes quick decisions. When he sees a tasty little item at the auction, he'll end up buying it. He'll think any challenge won't be hard for him, and that's where they'll take advantage, kidnap him into the guild. So they're doing all this just to pull him into the guild. They want him too. The top-ranked player must be mad. The game rankings got updated, and in the second quest, the protagonist scored 230 points, and someone's getting a notification that they lost access to the auction because of him. Damn it, the kid got 230 points. What kind of class farms that much? I won't be able to use the auction trick for a while, but fine, if I keep killing all the other players, nobody's going to catch me. Yeah, it's the King of Sin. Meanwhile, back with the kid and his girl, they're both riding the big snake. The Sanctuary Exploration submission got completed, and he got an epic teleport book. Huge win. The bad part is it has a 30-second cast time and can only be used once a day. Isabella is totally confused. Then the protagonist gains enough experience and levels up. Considering the max level right now is 10, he's already level 3 almost halfway through the game, and his stats are high, 36 in everything plus 5 straight up protagonist numbers, and he still thinks he's leveling slowly. According to him, the more talent you have, the more experience you need. But at the same time, that also makes him a much stronger level 3 than normal. So it's fine. Especially because he knows about an item he'll get as a reward from the main quest. Extremely rare at this level. Something called the Cloak of Shadow, which makes you invisible. But right then, Dramat's expression changes. He senses the Habibs arriving and warns the protagonist there are intruders in the sanctuary. Isabella is sure it's the Queen's pursuit squad. What are they going to do now? The Queen herself won't come, but she must have sent a lot of people. Even with the Mountain Guardian, they can't deal with everyone. Seriously? It's wild. When it's an enemy, it's impossible. A god and immortal creature. The moment it becomes an ally, it can't kill 5 Habibs. But the protagonist asks why they would fight. Isabella looks like she just got a big idea. The two of them take off running and leave the big snake to handle everything. As they escape, they only hear the Habibs yelling, "What the hell is this? There's a snake, help." The protagonist says there's no way the whole army arrived, it's probably just the fastest advance unit, so they'll use that chance to get out. Isabella thinks it's messed up to abandon the snake, but he says the creature is bound there, it can't leave the sanctuary anyway. What he really needs is to reach the portal at the edge of the desert. The good part is that now that he removed Isabella's curse, that won't be a problem. He suddenly stops and says the problem is the gate needs time to activate. Isabella's anxious. When she gets through, he adds yes, they'll be out of the desert. The problem is it'll take time, and she asks how long. He says until noon. And the bad part is they're in the middle of the desert. Where are they supposed to hide? Behind that little pillar over there. All they can do is hope. Dramat buys them enough time. And during that time, he says he's going to try to communicate with the stars. But he's actually making an excuse. He's saying that because he needs to go back to the real world and see how things are there. He asks her if he can trust her. She pulls out a blade and says yes, he can trust her. Lockout successful, but the game tells him to be careful when using the auction market. He wakes up in bed, still thinking it feels weird switching bodies. He grabs his phone and sees there are no more monster or disaster alerts. Pangania and reality are slowly merging. The bad part is there's still a lot he needs to figure out. New monsters will show up soon, but the big problem right now is other players. He needs to come back here regularly to get information. Then he gets a message, someone asking how he's doing, calling him Hyung. He recognizes it as Kim Soyeon. So there's another void and he tells her not to annoy him because he already bought food and clothes. What's her problem? It's a bit confusing. She says he flirted with her so much while acting like a rich guy. So where is it? Looks like he was lying. He says they'll talk later in person. While she asks what the reason is, he just says there's nothing to do. He has a friend to talk to. He hangs up and she's furious. She was really calling to ask for gifts, thinking that guy was a loser. But at least he used to listen to me. Maybe I should have stayed with him a little longer. But whatever, he doesn't have money anyway. Then someone else shows up calling her. Huh, it's him. She smiles, saying she thought she'd have to wait a long time. He asks why she called him so urgently. She tells him to sit. She says maybe it's because they haven't seen each other in a few days, but he feels different. He looks more fit. But he just says, tell me what you want. I'm leaving. She's clicking her tongue in anger because he's acting proud. Nothing like he used to be. Then she says some things never change. He really came today as soon as she asked, and that's something she always liked about him. And after they broke up, she realized how good he was. She thought about it, regretted it, and now she wants to know, did he miss her? But the protagonist isn't even listening properly. He's just staring at the sign that says everyone has to order at least one drink. He's mad she called him over and didn't buy anything. Then he stands up and says, are you done talking? I'm out. She's confused and says, wait, aren't you listening? I said I miss you. Why don't we get back together? But he says, so Yuran, does your new boyfriend know about this little meetup? If you like flirting with multiple guys at the same time, you should at least delete your photos from social media. No idea what he saw because we didn't see it, but he walks out while she begs him to wait. All he's thinking is, if it were the old me, I'd be shocked and wouldn't know what to say. But today I feel calm, steady, clear. Is Randolph's growth in the game affecting me? As soon as he steps outside, he sees a commotion. Some guy is pulling out a box cutter, telling a punk he's going to slice him open. He swings it towards someone's head, telling the guy to go to hell. The person shuts their eyes, then the protagonist grabs the attacker's arm. Turns out the guy had been hitting a young girl, beating her so badly she was going bald. The protagonist tells the idiot to stop. The guy tells him to let go, but with one squeeze he starts shaking, saying his wrist feels like it's about to snap in half. And the kid realizes he isn't even using 100% of his strength. Honestly, he feels like if he squeezed for real he could kill this guy. He just tossed it on the ground like it was trash. The young woman from the office is there like, oh thank you, you helped me, I don't even know how to thank you. He's standing there lost in thought and she's trying to figure out why he's staring like that. Then the protagonist realizes it's that same girl from earlier, the one he saved from the kid. So he asks what's up, and he goes, nothing serious. You just reminded me of someone I used to know. Right in the middle of that distraction, the divorce guy comes in and smacks him on the back. But look at that aura farming. He didn't even flinch. He just took it like it was nothing. Then he slammed him face first into the ground. And the young woman is into it because everyone in this story is crazy. She's like, wow, he's so strong. The protagonist is feeling himself now. Like, I'm a beast, kid. The police show up and take the punk away. Yeah, but the punk's gotta take him to the station too. He blew a civilian's head open on the pavement. What do you think this is, a video game? And that's exactly what they're saying. It was excessive violence. damn, the kid is completely out of control. And the police are like, you're coming with us. The cop looks at him like, so what? You're coming. Until the girl says, calm down. I'm Kim Hana, an interviewer and reporter. Instead of harassing this innocent kid, you should talk to me since I'm the victim. Unless you want this whole thing to get broadcast. Now the cops are like, yeah, they're not trying to get famous today. And it looks like some people recognize her as the woman who saved the child. So she's trending, and everyone's kind of on her side. Then the guy Joseph goes, all right, fine, forget it. Hana turns to the kid, thanks him for everything, and he says it's all good. But then she hands him her business card with her number, saying she's been following the heroes from other dimensions. The protagonist is thinking, okay, she must mean the player. The weird part is nobody's mentioning Pangania. Probably an interdimensional invasion sounds more believable than an invasion from a game. But when she's asking for the kid's business card, the other girl comes running up and clings to him, asking, are you hurt? Hana asks, is that your boyfriend? He smacks her, no, and also, I don't have a business card with my number for you either. Hana asks for his number, and he goes, fine, but hand me your phone. Hana asks for his number, and he goes, fine, but hand me your phone. Ace is there, just hearing all of this, damn, he's giving his number to another girl right in front of me. She starts freaking out. Hana's like, wow, your name is Hyung Min Young? That's such a nice name. One day we should grab coffee, have dinner together. And the chat is like, yeah, sure, I'm not gonna say no. Ace is furious. How does he have the nerve? That damn kid is a nobody. He's about to blow up on the bus. The young woman walks through the city. What is this? Out of nowhere, her thighs got bigger. Someone asks if the Supreme Authority Kim is having a good weekend. She tells them not to call her that because her name is Kim Hana. The person says okay, but tells her the director left her a mission, an interview with someone named Gracia. She asks if that's the guy people say is the hero who saved the Americans. Why are they asking her to interview someone that famous? The person says they have no idea, but it looks like the superhero himself asked for her and wants her to go to Korea. None of this makes any sense. Scene cuts to the Habibs, all on the ground, kissing the asphalt, pretty little mouths, tired and exhausted, but still protecting the kid. Covered in red blood, they're saying, blood princess, the queen only wants you to return. Hand over that slave already, my girl, and we'll pretend none of this happened. But she says she'll never believe that, and they rush her saying the cursed girl is going to die. Yeah? They're pretending didn't even last a second. But right then, a huge portal starts blasting light everywhere, and the departure point opens up. Just as the girl is trembling, shaking her little arm, the Chad shows up saying, Isabella, you held on. Let your dad handle it now. I talked to the stars and I'll fix this. Bowling ball head in the back orders them to execute the traitor. But the protagonist throws his hand forward and says, now it's his turn to keep the promise he made. The moment his hand closes, he uses the exclusive skill Piercing of the Stars. All the energy gets consumed and the power is going to last 41 seconds. My god, the Habib guys, poor things, are getting completely destroyed. While he says the time for liberation has arrived. She seems to recognize that this really is the power of a star bearer. And then, out of nowhere, he says, Isabella, if you don't want to come with this Chad, I won't stop you. Just to force the girl to say, no, I'll go with you. She even gives a little smile and steps through the portal. Her curse was broken, and now he can connect to 12 other places through the desert. And he selects the central continent of Arcana. Welcome to the Golden City. Damn, more Habibs. This place is full of Habibs. So yeah, we really are in the Middle East. That's where this game takes place. Isabella is impressed, saying the place is extravagant. He says, of course it is. In the City of Gold, everything gets solved with gold. Then the Parmalat girl says, perfect. She has 300 coins. He looks and says, nice. With that, we can afford one night in a room. She's confused, says that makes no sense. Out in the desert, that buys like 10 slaves. He explains that in this city, everything's different. A loaf of bread costs 50 gold coins. That doesn't make any sense. Like, how is gold worth less than wheat? The writer tried to be clever and messed it up, unless the ground is made of gold stone. So the protagonist tells her not to worry. There's money everywhere. She asks what he's talking about. Yeah, it's the city of the tiger. 3 plates of wheat for 3 sad tigers. She's blushing like always, kind of confused if that's really the plan, but the Chad says, don't worry baby, I'm lucky. Turns out he has the blessing of gold trait, and the kid is on the field to play. They head to the Hudson Casino, but the guy at the front blocks them. Excuse me, sir? Anyone with less than 10,000 to deposit can't even step in here. Isabella immediately goes, so what the hell? Why didn't you tell me? I only have 100 coins. I took a shower and bought clothes. She's all Cleopatra style, while the guy at the door says, no deposit, get out of the line and stop messing up this place. But the protagonist stretches out his hand and says, take a look at this. It should be more than enough. Terror of the Fairy Queen from the Immortal Raid. Apparently it's worth it, because the guy starts shaking and they both walk in like VIPs. Isabella asks what he handed over. He says it's the fairy talisman, one of the rewards they got back at the sanctuary. She goes, are you insane spending something rare like that here? He says, relax. They only have it for a while because I'm getting it back right here in Habibland. Roulette spins, lands on number 3, and people are already yelling, damn, that guy again, he hit 1,200 coins. The kid is already behind walls of coins just like you'd expect from the blessing of the god of gold. When it comes to making money, there's no better trait in the whole game. The girl is hyped, saying they're rich now, and he goes, I'm rich. That's what you mean. She's ready to cash out, and the staff is like, "Sir, we'll pay you today's winnings, but from now on, you're banned from the Hudson betting house. Any customer copying your bets is making too much money, and it's becoming a huge problem. So please leave the premises now." Yeah, he's surrounded. Isabella wants to start a fight, and he says, "Relax, fine, I'm leaving. But first I want to talk to the owner." Big Nose says, "Who do you think you are? Get out quietly." But the kid says, "You don't get it. Your boss is the one who wants to know who I am. So go tell him I'm waiting." That mustache guy must be the boss, and he's in shock watching through a crystal. He uses an observation hand, level 81, and freaks out. That item is extremely rare because fairies hardly ever leave their realm, and this one is from a fairy queen. Even if he asked like 3 level 10 guys to go buy something like that, it wouldn't be possible. He can't believe something like that ended up in his casino. Then someone says, "Mr. Hudson." "Huh? What is it? Talk?" The guy answers, "That talisman guy, the one winning a ton of money, wants to meet you. He said you probably want to know who he is." Hudson does that "all right then" thing and says, "That's right, bring that kid in for a little tea." So the protagonist sits there with his legs crossed like he's into men or something. He's holding his pose while Hudson thinks, this guy who brought the fairy item doesn't even look like a good fighter. Then Hudson says, "So you told my people you wanted to talk to me. What did you mean by that?" The protagonist says it's obvious. Does he really have to explain something like this? As far as he knows, Hudson needs that talisman he left as a deposit. Hudson hesitates and says it looks like the kid already knows he collects rare talismans. And yes, he's right. Hudson was going to try to buy it anyway. Randolph says if the price is good, he won't refuse. Hudson offers 2 million gold, saying he's being generous. The girl is trembling. She's never even heard numbers like that. But the protagonist goes 10 times higher. 20 million or don't even talk to him. Hudson says he's lost his mind. 12 million gold is enough to buy a mansion in the center of Arcana. No matter how rare the talisman is, it's only used to reforge weapons, so it's not worth that much. Randolph says, "Maybe it's not worth that much to me, but I know it's worth that much to you." But Hudson refuses, saying it's just a hobby item, and he doesn't have that kind of money to throw at it. But the kid knows the secret and says, "As far as I know, the fairy tier isn't just a talisman to you. It's what you need to get into the city council, because the minimum qualification is reaching level 10. But to reach that level, people have to use their own strength. And for you, since you're not a combat class, that's an impossible wall. That's why you need the item that creates the effect of removing the minimum level requirement to equip certain gear. And the fairy item is exactly that. With it, you can wear things above your level and make up for what you lack in stats. And that way you'll finally be recognized by the family of your fiancé, Serengeti." The protagonist knows everything. Serengeti is another Parmalat girl you can tell from far away, and apparently she commands 500 white knights. A girl so decent she sacrificed both legs to help the kid hunt the Demon King. When the protagonist was in Pangram, he saw it like a game. He didn't care. But now he's realizing maybe the NPCs in that game are people from another world. And what's happening is the worlds are connecting. That makes Serengeti's last words come back to him. She asked him to deliver a talisman to a certain person. The quest said the person carried a photo of her husband Hudson. He was confused. As far as he knew, she didn't even have a husband. What kind of nonsense is that? And now the protagonist connects it. Serengeti didn't have a husband in the original story. The only way she could have changed as an NPC is if another player met her, meaning it's possible Hudson is a player, and now he's in shock. The protagonist is sure Hudson must be someone who arrived in this world long before him. That makes him the perfect target to squeeze a ton of information out of about how everything works. Hudson obviously wants to know how he knows all that, and the kid says the stars told him. Hudson asks if he's a star bearer, and the protagonist says yes. But if Hudson isn't willing to pay the 20 million, he only has to accept one simple condition. Hudson, confused, asks what it is. The kid tells him to tell his entire life story, and then he'll decide whether the stars will help. Hudson is sitting there, not understanding. This guy wants my life story? While the protagonist is thinking he doesn't care about this guy's life, he wants to know everything about the game. On top of that, there's a risk, because there's an NPC class in this game called Hunter that literally goes around killing all players. Since the star class is rare, Hudson might think he's faking it. But the kid is confident Hudson will accept, because Serengeti is way more than just some random NPC. So Hudson says fine, he'll tell his life story, and it all starts with his fiancée, because everything he wanted to achieve was tied to her. He says Serengeti was a brave knight who took part in the expedition to the Demon King's realm, alongside the 8 heroes. The protagonist goes, "Wait, are you talking about the expedition where Ilian died?" And Hudson says yes, the guy who was the leader of the great expedition. All I heard is there was some kind of internal fight that ended up making the expedition fail. The main character is kind of confused. Hold on, who's telling this? It has nothing to do with him. So he asks, "Do you know who the 8 heroes were?" And the guy says, of course he does. Every one of them is a legendary figure. One of them, for example, was the second strongest, known as Gracia, who at that moment is watching the news about our main character. Someone behind him says he managed to get an interview with that Kim Hana, the Korean woman he asked for. But he wants to know why he has to go all the way to Korea. It would have been easier to bring those people over there, especially because people in the United States want him to stay around in case there's a monster attack. But Gracia says no. He's got this feeling the person in the video is a friend he's been looking for a while. So blue skies, and the main character is back in the city. but he doesn't look very excited. The young TV girl Miss Hana asks if he doesn't like meat. He says it's not that, he's just kind of exhausted. Actually, it's because Hudson stayed up all night crying and talking, telling stories, and he just sat there listening and listening. Poor Isabel was basically falling asleep standing up. The kid's acting all polite, asking Hana if it's really okay for him to eat there, because the food looks kind of expensive. But she's like, obviously you saved my life. Just eat and stop overthinking it. Then she looks over and sees something weird. Damn, there's this super empty look in the main character. First time I've seen an action story do that classic restaurant scene like this. It's a must-have. And she's sitting there pissed off at the new guy of the moment. The main character recognizes him as the guy she'd been posting on social media before. He even asks, does this new boyfriend of yours know you've been chasing after me? And it's bold and a crazy coincidence that he's there now. Hana offers to leave if he's uncomfortable, but he puts the meat in his mouth and says it's fine. He doesn't have any relationship with that girl anymore. Then someone asks, are you Park Hyuming? It's the guy behind them saying, looks like you're following Soyeon. Stop bothering her. You two already broke up, you shameless creep. The main character's confused. Wait, do you think I'm following her? And the guy says he knows exactly what he is, a pathetic crybaby loser who keeps chasing her, and he even went to bother her at the cafe. The main character's confused. As far as he remembers, she was the one who kept bothering him, but he gets what's happening. The wannabe mom type is just staring at him, and the new boyfriend is saying that if the main character follows her one more time, he's going to die because he's trash and worth nothing. Yeah, sure. Then Hana stands up. Let's see what the kid's going to do in this public humiliation situation. Everyone's staring, trying to figure out what's going on. And then the guy suddenly throws money in her face, saying she must be some bastard the main character hired, and now he's going to buy her off him. No, he really went there. Our guy still hasn't done anything. Hana's the one who steps in and slaps the guy across the face, calling him crazy. He answers that she'd better get her jaw ready, because she hit first. He goes in to hit her like he's about to really mess her up. But our guy just hooks his foot behind his leg, and the guy drops to the floor like a complete idiot. And he tells him to stay down because he's not innocent in this either. The guy turns furious, starting to talk trash. But our guy already has his hand on his face, cuts him off, and then plants a kiss on him. He's down there tasting the floor. My god, this is embarrassing. Jinwoo, get up. This is awful. How are you getting humiliated by this piece of garbage? I'm not, I can't get up. And then damn, he's about to pull something dangerous out of his pocket. He messed with the wrong person. He's gonna activate player powers. The main character recognizes the light. Everyone's confused. The guy is a dimensional hero. And then he grabs the main character by the neck. Now it's bad. What a situation. And he slams him into the ground like he's trash. But instead of being shocked, the main character is lying there thinking, is this guy a player? Then why does it feel like he didn't feel anything? He saw the guy transform, so he's intact. Did this guy put him down gently? The main character sees he's a Lancer class at level 4. In Pangagenia, there are 10 levels, and obviously the higher your level, the more experience you need. Plus, the required experience also changes depending on your talents. Since the main character has tons of them, his level 3 is actually a bit above this guy. So obviously this Jinwoo must be in the group of people with low talent. And every Jinwoo is low rank anyway. The main character's sure, this guy is probably a beginner gamer who synced with Pangagenia recently. He probably got lucky, survived the initial mission, and even got a decent class. After that, he got the ability to leave the game and never went back. The main character's sure this guy has almost no talent. Meanwhile, the young woman is like, oh my god, you were so amazing taking out that filthy trash. He turns and goes, hi Opin, whatever your name is, you're lucky I'm letting you live because of Seon. But you'd better never go after her again. The main character's thinking, this guy's an idiot. He not only revealed to everyone that he's a player, he's also burning through his golden scale like it's nothing. Hana asks if he's okay. He says, yeah, he's fine. Totally calm, no need to worry. She says they need to go to the police now, but he doesn't care. Says it was nothing. She slapped first too. It's fine. But in the middle of that conversation, an earthquake starts. The ground is shaking. The ceiling starts cracking. Stark corrosion. And then out of nowhere, giant worms coming from all sides. The main character covers Hana's mouth and tells her to wait a second while everyone runs around in panic. Strangely, the creatures were threatening, but they weren't attacking. The main character recognizes them as one of the few worms that only eat corpses and go around looking for items. If you don't attack first, usually the real danger doesn't show up. And now it's time for the couple to say goodbye, right? The girl is behind him like, go on babe, do something. Protect us. And he's like, alright then. Pulls out the lightning spear. The main character tells him not to attack, but it's too late. The guy blows the worm's head off. Now he's confused. Wait, I killed it in one hit. I must be stronger than I thought. Yeah, that's bad for you. You're getting high on something that's obviously gonna get you killed. He's all excited. How was I scared all this time? I'm awesome, I kill everything. While the main character tells Hana to run as far away as possible, that idiot just did the worst possible thing. The place gets swallowed by red smoke. Jinwoo doesn't understand. What's blocking my vision? What's happening? Then out of nowhere, a black devil hand comes in, and when it reaches the guy's eyes, a demonic eye appears on his back, asking who killed its child. The elite monster Mambatide shows up. He got caught from behind by the Mamba. And the worst part is, to beat it, it's recommended you have a level 6 group with 20 people, and the Mambatide is ordering everyone to be killed. It invades the kid's mind. Another idiot nearby is covering his mouth, asking what happened. He can't see anything. And then of course Jinwoo comes in with the lightning spear, telling it to die, and it looks like he's going to finish it. The guy's under hallucination, blood everywhere. No, hold up. The real monster steps in and cuts the kid's arm off, and then cuts both arms off. He drops like a sack of cement. And the main character is still building up his aura, telling it to show itself already. The worms start closing in while a voice laughs like the Joker. A huge mouth appears saying nothing bad happened at all. Looks like there's a human here. Delicious. Get out of here, Big Mamba. Trying to eat the kid. The young woman is screaming, searching. Hyung, where are you? But in the middle of the red smoke there's suddenly an explosion. It's the main character switching forms. He's taking advantage of it. Since the Mamba hid everything, he has a chance to transform without anyone knowing who he really is. Good thing he knows this thing's attack patterns, or he would have been food a long time ago. The monster is confused. Strange. Your physical abilities are mediocre, so how are you dodging everything? The main character doesn't say anything. He charges again. The Mamba grins, pulls something from its head, and throws out a bunch of tentacle strikes, but the main character is slicing through them. He says he already knows what's coming, and then there's a blood explosion spraying his way, but he grabs a table and blocks it. And that stuff, if it touches you, it poisons you. The table holds. The monster says it's unbelievable. He dodged even that. Something's wrong. The kid has an abnormal dodge skill. But if his attacks can't reach the creature, what changes? The main character tells it not to worry. He's gonna put this right in the middle of its forehead now. He activates that fairy thing that reduces the required level and equips Hermes' boots. And not just that, he equips Michaela's armor, Michaela's hat. He's fully geared up. With the full set, he can use the Celestial Dragon buff. All of that was bought at the secret auction. He wanted to avoid using the fairy's tier, but he can't die there, obviously. Hermes' boots give +3 agility and the lightness skill. Once it's activated, he disappears like a bullet and launches at the snake. The thing swings its tail at him. It comes right at his face, and you'd think he'd pull off some slick dodge, but he gets knocked back. But he doesn't stop, plants his foot hard and charges again. Now the monster can't even keep up with his movements, and he's already behind it. The big snake starts pulling out tentacles and firing them at him, but he blocks everything. Then it goes for another tail strike, and he takes it right in the middle of the chest. Come on, I'm hyping you up, stop getting hit. But then calm down, he activates an option from the Michaela set. Wings open up, now he's floating. The monster is shocked, saying the bastard has endless tricks. How is a rat like this in a place like this? The main character celebrates. Finally, he reached the last attack pattern of this creature. He just needed to endure it, and he starts to lift off. The monster keeps breathing out poison, saying there's no way he can escape something like that. The whole place turns red. The rat is supposed to die now, but a synergy activates between the Celestial set and Hermes' boots. The Gale ability automatically pushes everything aside, clearing the poison away. The monster is confused, asking if he's using wind to push the poison away. The main character already knows the 4 attack patterns. After you dodge everything, the monster enters a short confusion state. In that moment, it can't act. But if the confusion ends, it starts attacking with even harder patterns. So if he's going to win, it has to be now. He goes all in while the monster begs him to wait a second. But it looks like he drove the blade in deep. He forces it in harder, saying he warned it this blade was going straight into the middle of its forehead. With that, the Mamba is defeated, and his contribution is 100%. He absorbs the scale fragment for 10 more minutes, and he still has a total of 47 hours and 56 minutes. That fragment is apparently what lets a player use the game's powers in real life. I mean, everyone probably already figured that out. But just to be clear, everyone watches the smoke disappear, and the system announces that the darkness has receded for a moment, and it's at 9.1% until Pangagenia collapses. Hana is asking where the kid is. What happened? She looks to the side and sees someone pulling a cloak up and throwing it over his head, and she remembers that this was the same person who saved her that time. She immediately says, "Wait, was it you who saved me?" But the main character just thinks, good, she's safe, so that's that. The invisibility cloak effect activates, and he disappears. She notices the smoke is gone, but where's the kid? And then there he is. What, you think it's magic? Hey Hannah, how are we doing? I finally found you after all this mess. Are you hurt anywhere? She says no, she's fine. But she notices there's a bit of blood on his finger and asks if he got hurt. He says no, it's just monster blood that must have splashed on him, nothing serious. But she's a reporter, so she goes, Hyung, your clothes look totally fine, but your finger's dirty with blood, that's weird. And you were way too calm when that guy attacked you, and when the monsters showed up. Did you know what was happening? The King of Lies says, wow, I was calm, I didn't even notice, I just kept doing what my mind told me to do. She tells him to be serious. He's clearly been relaxed this whole time. He says no. Actually, he was really scared, but he managed to keep himself under control. But now Hannah is sure. This kid is extremely suspicious. He's acting like it's no big deal, and he showed up right after the guy who saved her disappeared. Yeah, that made it pretty obvious. She's a reporter, and you still pull something like that. You should have just vanished and called her later. Now it's the next day, and it looks like these monster openings popping up out of nowhere are happening constantly. Society's been warned it's only going to get worse. Because of that, a lot of people decided to stay inside their homes. The whole world is kind of emptying out, and the news anchor says most people are unhappy and are saying the government is moving way too slowly to deal with it. It's one tragedy after another, and nobody does anything. Some guys are watching this in a room, and a bald guy says that when the first invasion happened, everyone stayed calm. Now they're realizing how serious it is. Another guy answers that of course they are. Only the people who got attacked by a monster start to understand how real this is. And the girl on the phone says that at first the response was slow because it was something that completely went against common sense. But now everyone has finally realized these invasions are going to keep happening. Another guy cuts in and says, yeah, and that's why it's the perfect chance for them to launch his alliance. That's Park Tae-woo. The girl on the phone says that right now everyone must be desperate to recruit talent. She watched the video, and it really looks like that guy killed the Mamba by himself. Maybe he's Randolph, the one who got first place in the main quest. A guy in the back says, yeah, but if Randolph finished quest 2, how is he equipping Hermes' shoes? Someone else says he's probably using a talisman. But details aside, they need this person, especially because this guy keeps disappearing for some weird reason. There's a chance this Randolph is the real Phantom, and obviously no matter what happens, he has to join their alliance and not any other. It's the only way to stop the opening that's coming. Cut to poor Hudson losing it, because the protagonist used the fairy drop Hudson had. Hudson wants to know, you bastard, didn't you say you were going to sell it to me? How did you end up using something like that? The protagonist says, what? I said I'd help you. I never said I'd give you that specific item, and you don't need that talisman to reach your goal. I got rid of it, because now you at least got rid of that pathetic little hope too. The protagonist is furious. He doesn't want to admit he needed it to beat Uncle Mamba, but hearing that, Hudson asks if he means there's another way. The protagonist just tells him to follow along and trust him, and that he'll give him a reason to. The scene shifts to an underground part of the city. Yeah, the sewers. And Hudson's asking, why are we here? What are we doing? The protagonist says they're there to wash away Hudson's suspicion. Also, he needs to create a passage to Arcana, because the teleport book he got from Dramut is convenient but annoying since he has to keep raising his exploration level. He can only go to places he's already explored, so he basically has to keep traveling the world. Since that's impossible for now, he'll have to settle for exploring the sewer dungeon. Hudson is confused. Hold on, you think we're going into the sewer dungeon with just the 3 of us? You know there's a rat monster down there, right? Ratatouille and the whole crew are waiting for us. The protagonist says he knows, right as he gets stared down by this huge splinter-looking thing. A raid monster appears, known as the mutant rat. Level 8? Seriously? I don't get it. This game only goes up to level 10, but every monster is almost there? The monster locks eyes with them. First time in my life I've seen a little rat with a vein on its foot. It's going 100 miles an hour. I don't even know if that's dangerous or not. The big rat is zigzagging side to side, and Hudson realizes that at that speed he has zero chance of blocking it. But the protagonist just calls for Isabella, who's already holding her knife. Suddenly he calls out a clock position, and she shoots like a bullet straight into its eye and splits it open. Alright then, put the kid to work. The protagonist thinks it's no wonder he brought her. Her level is higher than most, and she's got great combat skill. Hudson still doesn't get it, and the protagonist says that no matter what happens he'll keep the promise he made, so don't doubt him. If he said he'll do it, then it'll get done. Yeah, sure, everyone here already knows you're a total con artist. You've lied to basically everyone in this city. Next chapter, some guys talk about how they checked the cameras and didn't find any information. One of them scratches his head and says, what the hell, is this a ghost story now? This guy is a hero, Xian Zhang. The guy behind him asks, wouldn't it be better if we found Jinwoo again? He answers no. That guy is finished. Wait, Jinwoo is alive? Didn't our protagonist cut his arms off? Yeah man, that's brutal. Look at him in the hospital. He's basically a sack of cement. The protagonist completely wrecked him. One of them asks about Kim Hana. She seemed like she knew something, but his friend says that for now they shouldn't mess with her because she could cause trouble. The other guy asks why. He says, you don't know Gracie's protecting Kim Hana. She's part of why everyone in Korea is on edge. That guy came from the United States to be interviewed by her for some reason. And there they are, tons of cameras, and the guy standing in front of her introduces himself, saying it's an honor to meet Korea's famous reporter Kim Hana. In the conversation between those two idiots, one of them is like, what? Is he in love or something? What happened? The other answers, how would I know? I have no idea why Gracia traveled halfway across the world to talk to her. Obviously he's dying of curiosity too, trying to figure out why. But for now, it's better to stay away from her. Most people who get in Gracia's way in any way just get erased. Cut to a beat-up kid against a wall asking, what are you doing? Killing players is forbidden in the real world. The guy says it's not forbidden. Who decided that? Just listen to what he's saying. The kid tells him to remember, Gracia told everyone to prepare for the invasion. Obviously, the more players die, the worse it gets. The guy covers his mouth and says that's enough. If he wants to talk to Gracia so badly he can go ask for help, then he bites into his neck. Blood sprays and he walks away. While the system says he's been registered as one of the top ranked to obtain a class. Thanks to the player massacre, he got access to the secret auction. The hooded guy disappears, sure that the damn phantom is this Randolph, which means he'll challenge the main quest without hesitating. And if he waits for that kid in that certain place, it's guaranteed he'll show up and get killed. Cut to a desert where some huge creature stomps around, and there they are again. Our boy and the kid. He says they got lucky. The original plan was just to register the rat dungeon point, But when he killed the monster, they got the rat core, a mutant material with the trait of strengthening beast-type souls, and that's what he used to evolve the High Dragon. Then the protagonist asks Hudson, "Did you handle things at the casino?" Hudson says, "I left everything organized like you said. It sucks that I have to step away from business right now, but it's all to marry Serengeti. And if I didn't hand the casino over to someone while I'm gone, it would get attacked." But the truth is, what convinced him was the fight against the rat. He realized the protagonist seemed to know everything the monster was going to do. A chance to negotiate with someone like that is extremely rare, and the protagonist is there next to Parmalat, saying, "Good. Now with the money, they don't have to worry." Hudson wants to know where they're going, and he says they're going to get the masterpiece that will guarantee Hudson's wish. Not only that, it's also the place where Main Quest 3 begins. They're going to the Tower of Spirits. In a forest, the trio walks along. Hudson comments that it looks like a pretty normal place, and the protagonist says that's the entrance to the Tower of Spirits. So he'd better be careful, because this is where spirits are born, and also where they temporarily open the path to the spirit realm. Passing through that path at dusk is the only way to get there. But this tree here has been dead for a long time. Not just this tree, the whole forest is dying, and apparently it's been a long time since any spirit was born there. It's not the best method, but they don't have a choice. Hudson asks why the kid has his sword out, wanting to know what he's going to do, and the protagonist swings once and splits the tree in half. The whole forest shakes. The two in the back are confused, but something is coming from above. Some hand threw something toward Hudson, but Isabella intercepted it. Still, she has a bad moment. She's bleeding too. A guy with horse legs says the human woman isn't bad at all. A high-level druid, the master of this forest. Hudson clearly doesn't know what that is because he's standing there in shock, yelling. And the druid says, "I thought you were just lost travelers, and I was going to let you pass. But you went and cut down the spirit tree. Looks like humans aren't afraid of what happens here anymore." There are like 40 level 7 half-pony guys staring them down. Isabella is sure that if all of them rush, they won't have any chance at all. And then the tough one walks up saying, "Don't take it out on them. If I'm the one who cut the tree. Besides, if I hadn't done it, you wouldn't have shown up." The master says he's lost his mind. The protagonist says, "Come on, get down here, I want to talk." The guy refuses, until the protagonist asks if he really wants to watch the forest die like this. That catches him off guard, and he asks what he's talking about. The protagonist says he's here to bring the forest back to life, because he doesn't see a single spirit breathing life into this place, and if none are being born here, then the master should know better than anyone that it won't be long before this place disappears. If he opens the gate to the Tower of Spirits, he hands a forest spirit over to that place. The druid tells him to stop making things up. The spirit portal is a place only the chosen can enter. How would someone filthy like him have permission for that? The protagonist knows the truth is that to enter the Tower of Spirits, you need a ton of talent and to complete a bunch of quests. The number of players who reach this part of the game can be counted on one hand. And with Randolph's current level, getting in was basically a dream. But he tells the guy to shut up and open the gate, because he has the secret trait of druid affinity, and he swears he'll take responsibility for saving this forest. The master still doesn't really believe him, asking if he's seriously saying he'll save this place. Everyone is cursing, saying he's a filthy liar and what he needs is to die. People all around are yelling to kill them, saying they're going to rain attacks down. The master stares, totally unbothered, until suddenly someone raises a hand and tells them to stop. The half-ponies are surprised. It was the master. He steps up face to face with the protagonist and says he'd better keep that promise. The protagonist says he can be sure because he never breaks a promise. "Unfortunately, I can't defend you on that. You lie way too much." But the master says he's only allowing it because he wants to watch him fail, and then kill him afterward. So that's it. Come on, follow me. They reach a pile of stones, and the master says that with the forest dying, this is the only way to open the gate to the tower. Use the corpse of the stone spirit. And the kid should know that if he fails, he'll become nutrients for this forest immediately. Randolph says that's unfair. What if he wins? What does he get? The master says a reward worthy of it. Then the quest appears. Return the forest spirit and receive the title Friend of the Druids. If you fail, lose 30 honor and start a war against the forest. The master tells him to get ready, stretches out his hand and says the gate will now be opened. Flashbang. Everyone's blinded, covering their faces, and a portal to the tower is created. Only those with permission could pass through. Looks like the whole little trio made it through, huh? Because Randolph's already on the other side. He asks the protagonist if they're at the spirit tower, and the protagonist says no. They're inside the portal that leads to the tower. But to get past that point, you have to get permission from someone. And then this little flame ball shows up wearing a hat. Randolph is sure it's a spirit. Like, was he supposed to just pick it up and take it to the forest? He thought it was way too cute, but the protagonist says no. He walks up to the creature, it watches him for a second, and says it can feel the aura of a druid. He'd been granted permission, yeah, obviously because of his trait. The fire acorn asks if the people behind him are his friends, and he says yes. The creature asks if he'd trust his life to them, and he says yes again. He's trusting them a little too much. So the spirit says it'll let everyone in, but each of them will have to face their own tests. While Parmalat is over there saying she'll be right back, poor Hudson is freaking out. The spirit says time moves differently in the tower than it does in the real world, so they don't need to rush. All it wants is to wish the druids good luck. Man, I love a good tower section. Let's climb a few floors like Sung Jin Woo. And the protagonist immediately runs into the first huge gate. He says it's been a long time since he came to this place, and looking at the door, he has no idea what the test is. My god, just to start entering the tower, you have to pass a test, and that test takes different forms depending on the person's elemental affinity. He remembers that the milk girl has wind affinity, so that'll be her test, and Hudson with water affinity will probably get that one. But in front of him is a door for a test tied to some element he's never seen, probably because Randolph is a character with affinity for all elements. Then the statue opens its eye and says, "Incredible, a being with all affinities, water and fire, light and darkness. You possess elements that shouldn't even coexist. Maybe it's because of the void element that can contain everything. But that was way too complex to be called a simple element. The kid basically had the embodiment of chaos, and that's why he'll have to face the challenge of chaos. And since he's about to take a test that's never been done before, he'd better be careful. Because if he gets devoured in the chaos test, there's no coming back." The protagonist doesn't care about the warnings. He walks in and ends up in an empty room. Our deep web faker says that for the last 5 years he played Pangania every day, and he's definitely the person with the most hours. He knows more about this world than anyone else, but even he doesn't know everything. Because it's a game famous for having tons of unknown places. And when you enter one of those, there's nothing but mystery. And that's exactly why he loves the game. He heard the monster say it's the first time anyone's entered, so once again he's going to be the first to finish it too. But in front of him there's someone standing with their back turned, white hair, who turns around and stares him down. It's Wilhelm, the character he created himself. Anyway, before he can say anything, the guy is already shoving a huge sword in his face. Boom, almost took his neck off. But the kid crouched at the last second. He's in shock that he has to beat Wilhelm in a situation like this. He goes for a stab that almost hits the cape, but it looks like the monster managed to knock the sword out of his hand and is coming down with an overhead slash. The protagonist is sure whoever designed this made it so nobody could win. The chapter ends there, but in the next one, the sword is stuck in the ground. He's already equipped Michaela and Hermes' set, and he tanks the sword strike on his arm. One thing he's sure of, if it didn't split his arm in half, then even if it looks like Wilhelm, the stats are closer to Randolph. Michaela's set triggers that combo that generates a windstorm, and he's sure this is just a look-alike copy, so he has a chance. He sends the wings, pushing the thing back. Wilhelm slams into the wall but gets back up fast, and the protagonist is already coming in with another thrust. Look at the choreography. He kicks a big rock that hits the protagonist in the chin. At the same time, he twists his neck and slips the sword strike. And Wilhelm asks if he came there to reclaim the old glory he used to have. Then he lands another cut on the thigh, saying that won't be possible. But the protagonist grabs him by the hair and says a fake bastard like him doesn't get to talk like that. And then he rips his throat open. Damn, I thought it was going to be way more intense than that. He pulls out a little potion and heals up. Yeah, you have to remember, this is the test just to enter the tower. And the protagonist is relieved that with the money he got from Hudson, he bought a ton of potions, because this isn't going to be easy. Then the scene cuts to the real world. We're with Hana, who just finished that interview with Gracia. She thanks him, and he says it's fine. Now that it's over, he has a personal request for her, and she wants to know what it is. Hun, what is it? He says, it's simple. That man she mentioned in the article, he wants her to tell him everything she knows about him, every detail, without letting anything slip. Hun, you'd better say that this psycho is killing people. Speaking of dead people, there's a bunch of lions all wrecked on the ground. Protagonist spun around and killed them all. He's wondering how much time has passed. He's sure it's been at least 100, and he's starting to get exhausted. He's lucky that after the last ones he killed, nothing else showed up. And on top of that, it looks like there's nowhere else to climb, so this must be the final floor. It'd be pretty nice if a little window popped up saying he cleared everything. But suddenly the bodies start dissolving. The energy merges, forming this floating little mouth, saying it's strange that chaos didn't work. Is he a human, or is he a druid? It's strange that someone made it that far. The protagonist recognizes it as the spirit of chaos, and says, if you showed up, that means I finished this. But the thing opens its mouth and starts flying around laughing at him like the Joker, saying it's funny that he really thinks he finished. The tower test hadn't even started. Past that barrier is where things would finally begin for real. But the kid is already worn out just from getting there. Is he really going to be able to finish? He should know this test was made so he can't pass. Because right after the barrier there are hundreds, no thousands of copies waiting for him. He should quit now, he'll never finish this tower. But the protagonist keeps walking forward without answering while the thing keeps going. Quit, you bastard kid. That little chaos spirit is annoying too. It just won't shut up. The protagonist knows the reward in this place depends on the test you take. In the fire test, you get the fire spirit and $1 million. If you know what spirit you get in the wind test. So what's he going to get? In theory, spirit eggs are already insanely rare. Any class would be extremely rare and a reward people would envy. But what if he gets a chaos spirit? He keeps walking while from far away the thing says it's his last chance and he'll regret it. The protagonist answers, you already made it clear there are tens of thousands of them that I fought in here. It might be hard, I might have already used all my potions, but thanks to those first fights I already memorized the patterns, and this got easy. I won't even need any potions to beat this. If there are thousands, I just have to repeat the same patterns thousands of times. The spirit looks like an emoji and smiles, saying it didn't expect the idiot to accept the challenge for such a ridiculous reason, but it's the kind of idiot it actually likes. When he crosses, he finds himself back in that earlier place. You ascended to the top of the tower and completed the mission. So the thing was just trolling him to test whether he'd give up. Then the little fire spirit appears and congratulates him, saying he's alive along with all his companions. The protagonist asks if that whole "the test is only beginning" thing was a lie. The spirit says yes. If he'd accepted what Chaos said and maybe formed a contract with it there, he would have been trapped forever. He only won because he kept moving forward. The kid is furious, obviously, but the spirit tells him to hold out his hand and claim his reward. The energy forms the message: you completed the Tower of Chaos. Man, this kid is greedy. He's thinking that if he doesn't get surprised and only gets a Chaos egg, that's not a big deal, but he wanted something better than that. But that's exactly what he gets, an egg of the Chaos spirit. But he looks surprised because it has the celestial trait. Wait, what? It's Chaos and it's celestial. This weird mix with little angel wings, the letters all scrambled, and then it actually turns into a ball of feathers. Spirit egg, an unknown egg that fell from the celestial realm. The protagonist knows celestial stuff is the kind of creature that lives in the sky, but how does that connect to his traits? Maybe him spending all those points had something to do with the celestial race. He asks the spirit, "Hey little orb, do you know what this is?" And it answers, "Other than the fact that it's not something common, I have no idea." But even the Spirit King seems interested in it. The Spirit King obviously is one of the most powerful existences in this world, and one of the beings that governs the rules in Pangania. If that being is interested, then it clearly has huge value. He's curious to find out what it is, but there's no way to discover that now. He stores it in his inventory and decides he'll hatch it later. Mission number 3. Climbing the tower is completed successfully. As always, he has the luck of the constellations and the rewards get boosted. This constellation, eager for your adventure, licks its lips with its tongue and improves what you receive. Huh? What? How does that work? What kind of weird constellation is that? The protagonist is kind of confused too, but fine. If the constellations show interest, what he gets becomes better. That's what matters. In Pangania, they're kind of like spirits too. As a player, you don't lose anything by not having a relationship with them, but you can gain a lot if they start favoring you. Another message says his reward transcended thanks to the constellations, and he can choose 2 out of the 20 listed. A little later, Isabella and Hudson finish their tests too, and show up. Isabella got her spirit egg, and Hudson got his water egg. Since the number of spirits you get is random and Isabella got 2, they decide to give 1 to him, and with that he smiles, almost like a forced smile. But he knew it was enough for the forest to regain its vitality. As a reward, he also gives our kid the best elixir they have, known as Mandrake, a 1,000-year herb that absorbs the forest's vitality, but it didn't look very good. Isabella's kind of surprised that she's the one who gets to keep the item since she was the one who handed over the spirit. Because he completed this mission, he can now teleport to the forest too. The fame ranking updates and the protagonist goes back to rank 1, passing Gracia. And now that he's at the top of quest number 3, he gains the privilege of the Guardian Wall. I don't know what it is, because the next scene already has him being carried by his beast. Ah, okay, now it told us. The Guardian Wall protects your body when you're logged out. The strength of the protection depends on the Guardian Wall's level, and a level 11 Guardian Wall nullifies any 1-star attack or below. The protagonist thinks it's a huge relief that he finally has some kind of security, because when he's in real life, his body in Pangania is at risk, and the other way around too. And at least he managed to get a few more hours, and now he's at 72 in that broken fragment. Hudson calls him and thanks him for actually getting a spirit egg. The moment he puts it in to hatch, he'll solve his problems. The protagonist says, maybe you really can. The path from level 9 to 10 is hard, but with a spirit like that, you should make it. Now you just need to buy a spirit incubator. But Isabella says she has to stop somewhere before leaving and asks if he wants to come along, and he agrees. The scene changes to a small town and Hudson is freaking out, yelling, "My God, it's here, and I just don't know why." The protagonist tells him to shut up, and Isabella asks why he's acting like that. The protagonist explains that this is the Knight's Garden in Marquise Weiser's territory, and it's also where Hudson's wife lives. Hudson is going on about why they're here, saying he's not qualified to propose to her. The protagonist tells him to be quiet, he's not here for that. The protagonist himself needs to talk to Serengeti in person to ask for something. The guy asks, "What?" But then the protagonist looks around and sees the place is completely wrecked, and there are a bunch of rat eaters everywhere. But right over there on the other side, everyone's praying to some weird wooden board. Isabella says the obvious, "Damn, are they praying?" And the protagonist wants to know who those names are. He says he doesn't know who they are, but he does know why they're there. 500 names carved into that place belong to the knights who followed him on the Great Expedition. He never stopped to think it was weird, but he really didn't know anyone's name, and he didn't even care to remember. Nobody on that expedition was an important NPC, and even though they fought for him, to the protagonist it all felt like it was just part of the story. The old woman is pounding the ground. "Wilhelm, you bastards, give me my son back." The protagonist sees this woman completely out of her mind, walks up and she's there screaming, "How could you? How could you?" She's so far gone she ends up passing out right there, and he basically has to catch her. The protagonist says he'll take her to a relief station, and he brings her over to some people who are taking care of the totally worn-out patients on stretchers. Hudson comments that the place is packed with patients, or actually, it's not even that there are too many patients. It's that there aren't enough people to take care of the patients they do have. Something's off, or there's some problem with whoever's running this place. Then bowl-cut hair shows up. Hey, thanks for bringing my sister who passed out. Yeah? You're really good people. He's all shiny and cheerful. Gets right up in Hudson's face, and Hudson's thinking this is kind of weird. And the guy goes, to keep our care station running, we need donations. Could you give 50 gold? The protagonist goes, hold on. A station like this with the goddess and the church backing it should be getting funding from the city treasury. And besides, isn't it forbidden to accept personal donations? He doesn't know if this guy's trying to steal or what's going on. But the guy's looking off to the side saying he doesn't have a choice. Priest Andrew said that from now on he's going to accept prayers to keep this place going. The protagonist says no way. He knows Andrew, and he's not the kind of person who'd do something like that. He's a high-ranking priest who serves the twin goddesses of Pangasinia. He's an NPC who inevitably gives you a bunch of quests, so you can rack up honor, so it's really strange hearing this guy say Andrew is secretly accepting donations now. The place is falling apart, it's full of rat-eaters, and this guy is acting like this. What happened to this city? Well, 500 people died on your expedition, buddy. That's what happened. The city has 1,000 inhabitants and you kill half of them. Then you go, huh, this city feels so abandoned. Scene cuts to a mansion, big bottles of whiskey on the table. The guy takes a huge swig and smashes it against the wall. The butler is begging the Lord to please stop, but the chubby guy tells him to shut up and bring the rest of the alcohol already. That drooling loudmouth is Marquise Welser. Since he's a weird old bearded guy, I already know the protagonist is going to do everything he can to win this guy over. Back to the protagonist, saying, I want to meet Andrew in person right now. The guy says it's hard because a lot of people are waiting to talk to him, but our boy calls Hudson over and pulls out a bag of gold, saying they've got a donation of 50,000 coins for the place. And if he takes them to meet him right now, maybe that amount doubles. Outside, everyone hears the kid yelling that they're going to meet him right now. Another old guy for our boy to win over, telling him to sit down, it's fine. He heard the kid made a huge donation. The donation really is a big help. The protagonist nudges it. It wasn't a small amount. I heard you're only accepting 50 coins per donation, so I figured you'd need a lot. Andrew asks, kid, are you disappointed because I'm an old priest who seems to care about money? If that's it, you're right, and I'm ashamed, because I can't defend myself. But the protagonist says no. He's just curious why things are working like this. Why is the care station so desperate for money? Andrew says he heard the protagonist brought Sister May when she collapsed. She's a good example of why. Her son joined the Great Expedition and never came back. Since then, she lives with that pain every day, saying it's her fault and she should have stopped him, but she couldn't. And like her, many other friends and siblings had lost their families. Countless knights died because everyone admired Wilhelm and devoted themselves completely, but nobody returned. Because of all the losses and the cost of war, the city that used to be prosperous is now collapsing. And on top of that, the real problems started when Serengeti returned. My God, she came back having lost both legs. Everyone tried to heal her, but nothing worked. The Lord has been searching for all kinds of elixirs, but even that failed, and because of that, the finances that were already bad got even worse. It got to the point where the Lord was taking any kind of loan, and now that's over. He's broke and drunk. So obviously the subsidies the church used to receive from the city disappeared too. That's why they had to swallow their pride and start asking for donations. They don't have enough staff anymore, or enough beds or resources. The protagonist, confused, asks, wait, Serengeti collapsed? Is it physical? What exactly happened? Andrew says if it were something like that, they would have treated it a long time ago. It seems that she's actually cursed, but it's something even he, a priest, can't remove. The protagonist sees an opportunity. He already broke Isabella's curse, for example. He thanks Andrew for the hospitality and says he's going to go solve this problem. Andrew tells him, hey, wait, my son, there's no way the Lord is going to receive you. Wait a few days, and thanks to the donation you made, I can schedule a meeting. But the protagonist says not to worry. He can make it happen. And besides, the donation's already been paid. Then suddenly they hear a commotion, and someone opens the door calling for the Lord, wanting to know who made that donation. The protagonist immediately says, I told you once I donated that money they'd show up. He's already heading out, while Andrew says that either way, he's grateful for what the kid did. Our boy says money doesn't matter, and Andrew says, no, I'm thanking you for helping Sister May. Then he smiles and says it's always good to see Andrew. The old priest just stands there like always good. What do you mean? Has this kid seen me before? Scene cuts to the castle. The protagonist and his friends are at the door while he's inside talking to the Lord. Somehow the old guy sobered up because a second ago he was wasted and now he's calm, just watching the kid, wanting to know if this is the one who donated an absurd amount to the church. Is he some kind of traveling merchant? But he doesn't look like he's carrying much. Something's weird. Then he says, kid, sorry about the sudden invitation, but I'm Wiser, the lord of this city. The protagonist thinks this guy changed a lot compared to outside. In the story, this Marquise is a knight who made a name for himself because of his skill in his youth. His daughter Serengeti, for example, became a one-star transcendental with his help, back when he was with Wilhelm. She even reached the top of the continent. Thanks to that, House Wiser stabilized and became one of the most powerful in the region. And as an act of gratitude, this guy swore loyalty to him. And now the protagonist has to find out whether what broke in this guy was just his appearance, or if his heart is gone too. Wiser says, well, you probably know why I invited you. This city is having financial problems, so I want to propose something beneficial for both of us. but the protagonist cuts him off and just says, I'm going to cure Serengeti. Another Joker moment, saying he was wrong. Looks like the kid isn't just some rich young guy. He must be someone who heard the rumors across the continent. If you mention the Marquis's daughter, he throws money into your hands. So he says, fine then. How much do you think I'm going to pay you to cure her? 300,000? 500,000? This whole territory? He's losing it. He slams the table, saying he's sick of people messing with him like this. What else is he supposed to give until they're satisfied? He orders the guards to gouge the kid's eyes out and throw him out. The protagonist says, listen to the end because I'm not asking for money. I can't guarantee it, but I have a chance to cure her. Weiser says it's an interesting new attempt, but let's say he can do it. Why would someone he's never seen in his life come cure his daughter without taking money? The protagonist just says he's there to pay a debt he owes, and also to collect something. Weiser asks what he's talking about, and then Randolph reveals himself as Wilhelm's successor and orders them to take him to Serengeti right away because he has something to ask her, and in return he'll cure her, since she sacrificed herself for his master. But the father isn't okay. He starts laughing again like a maniac, saying the continent is full of people claiming to be Wilhelm's successor, and apparently one of them showed up here, which is even worse than someone who just wanted to steal his money. Now he orders them not only to kill him, but also the two waiting outside. A guard comes in to cut the protagonist down, and the protagonist blocks using only the mug, smacking the guy's hand and making him drop the sword. Then he says fine, he'll prove he's Wilhelm's successor. Next chapter, the father is staring down the kid in the middle of the arena. Hudson is confused. Why is there a duel happening out of nowhere? Isabella just says, I'm starting to get used to it. Everything is always unpredictable. Who knows how any of this even happened? The protagonist is facing a guy in full gear, with the blessing of a high priest. They're clearly taking this seriously, which is good. The guy asks, kid, are you really the successor of the King of Knights? If you're lying, you'd better confess now and receive forgiveness before you lose your life. But Randolph tells him to stop stalling, and just keep the promise that they'll hide his identity. Immediately the guy attacks, saying fine. Then they'll see the skills of the one who claims to be the successor king. The protagonist glances to the side, realizing the guy is actually fast. The attack slices past, he steps back and goes for his draw, saying it's a shame most high-ranking knights were killed because of the expedition. Of course, with the gear the protagonist has, he can't treat this guy like a joke, especially since the guy is still a level above. Then the guy throws a vertical slash. Our boy smiles and slips under it. He headbutts the guy's hand as the sword comes down. Damn, this sword looks pretty sharp. It could have pierced his skull. And I say that, and in the next panel, it actually does pierce it. The guy says the kid is a fraud, but also a lunatic. From far away, one of the knights says to the Lord, the kid seems pretty decent. But Weiser says there's no way to win with cheap tricks. He's seen countless idiots wandering around claiming to be the successor king, just trying to ride Wilhelm's reputation. But that swordsmanship wasn't easy to copy. He who saw it countless times face to face knows Wilhelm had a technique beyond human ability. No way this kid can prove he's his successor. The guy keeps the pressure on, saying he admits the kid is different from the other fakes, but enough time to admit the truth and say he isn't the real one. The protagonist says, you're all geared up to fight someone level 3 and you're still acting tough? The guy answers that he's only wearing it because the Lord ordered him not to hold back. Then boom, a kick to the chin right after. Now the protagonist pulls out the reverse grip, saying he'll show what his items can do. The guy looks surprised, confused. Then a small sword goes flying and hits the ground. Yeah, our boy threw his away and equipped the extreme steel sword. Actually, he equipped two at the same time. He's about to pull that Kirito-style dual-wield fencing. Weiser is sitting there not knowing where this kid even got that sword, and now the protagonist starts putting on the pressure. The guy realizes he's speeding up. The kid was trying to win with speed apparently, but every hit just bounces off the armor doing nothing. It's like an idiot trying to cut a mountain. The kid should have used a two-handed sword at least, then he might have done some damage. Right now he's just leaving scratches and nothing else. And then, right as he says that, the protagonist spins in and drives a whirlwind strike into his chest. The guy spits a bit of blood. The protagonist grabs another. Where is he even pulling these from? He picked up the sword he threw on the ground, and I don't even understand what's happening. But our boy is building up an aura, saying now he'll show what the title King of Knights really means. The scene cuts to him just staring. You know that moment when he finished that spirit trial thing and got to pick 2 out of 20? There were a bunch of options: Demon Slayer sword, extreme steel helm, destructive gloves, and that extreme steel sword gave an XP bonus. It was the item with the not-so-impressive stats, but the set bonus is what made it work. Since he already has Michaela's bonus on his armor, it'd be even better to stack another double bonus. And that's what he picked, 2 of them. 2 of the same sword. The second he equipped it, the sword started boosting a ton of weapon and blade mastery. On top of that, the successor of the stars could read the memories of the previous successor. Once he hit blade mastery level 10, he could read the memories of the former wielder. And then the system says he's recreating part of K. Wilhelm's swordsmanship. Wait, but that's King Wilhelm's, isn't it? So yeah, it didn't help the kid that much. Still, he's there putting pressure on the knight, and now the knight's confused. He takes another hit right in the middle of the neck, trying to figure out what kind of impossible fighting style this is. The pace of the fight had shifted, and he needed to stop it fast. But how? All he's seeing is a storm of endless slashes. If he tries to turtle up, the kid attacks so fast he eventually finds an opening. But if he tries to go on the offensive, the kid grabs both blades with one hand and just rams him in the chest, wrecking his balance. He can't understand how a technique like that even exists, and now he's completely under the kid's control. Pure aura formation. According to the story, in that moment Hudson and Isabel and even Weiser were basically in a trance. They couldn't take their eyes off that knight's movement. Not even the guy fighting the protagonist could focus. That was the real swordsmanship of King Wilhelm. The world-destroying attack. The knight panics so hard he even drops his sword on the ground. A quick slice to the neck, he admits defeat and goes down. I honestly thought the protagonist was going to kill him without hesitation. That would have been brutal. Then he immediately asks Weiser if there's anything else he needs to show. Weiser is speechless and just says it's fine. From now on, he'll be treated with respect. He really was the venerable Night King. Next chapter, we finally see Serengeti, and she's completely wrecked in bed. Weiser's already gotten chubby again, like a second ago he'd slimmed down, and now he's there saying he's tried everything. Every elixir they said would work, nothing worked. They called priests, but they all warned that whatever this curse is, it's way too powerful. The protagonist takes a look, activating the Great Sage trait, and instantly he's sure she's under the Demon King's curse. Now it makes sense why not even a priest from the Emperor could do anything. The only chance was an exorcism, but instead of holy energy, it uses star mana. Weiser asks if the kid can heal her. He says there's only one solution, and it's not guaranteed, so this is their only shot. She starts glowing, star mana gathering on her forehead. Weiser can feel this weird energy, while, damn, the protagonist is actually having to spend his own star energy, and the system warns he doesn't have enough mana to break the Demon King's curse. Okay, but at least he managed to suppress it for a limited time. She's seriously hard to bring back. She starts opening her eyes, asking where she is. Weiser immediately freaks out and clings to her, asking if she's really awake. She turns her head, basically a skeleton, while he asks if she remembers who he is. She says, Hudson? And he goes, yeah, Hudson. But then she suddenly asks who Hudson is. So yeah, she looked at her dad and said Hudson, because she saw him standing behind him. And her dad freaks out too, saying he took too long. Serengeti, I missed you so much. Then the story goes into Hudson. The moment he decided he was going to propose to her, he dedicated himself to making money. He wanted to become everything she might need. If she lost her legs, he'd be the legs she needed. For him, as long as she was alive, he'd take care of her forever. Hudson believed that if he didn't give up, the opportunity would come. But that belief was nothing but arrogance and greed, because opportunities don't last forever. Serengeti's body was losing strength and vitality. Her face was turning into nothing but bone, her arms limp. She was basically a rotten branch. And Hudson realized that if the Star Bearer had arrived a little later, he never would have seen her again. He's apologizing for being late while her father is like, what the hell? Who are you? What are you apologizing for? He's about to go off, but the protagonist says, hey everybody, calm down. Keep your emotions in check. The curse isn't gone yet. Weiser gets it right away. Wait, you're saying she can pass out again? And the protagonist says, at most she'll be able to keep her eyes open today. To fully break the curse, I need to find another star. He needs to raise his class rank to get more star energy. And to do that, he can level up or find the 3 stars. The best move would be to find the 5 stars Wilhelm himself lost when he died, because he has that class effect that lets him read the previous person's memories, and that should help. And if someone else gets one of those stars first, he might never recover the other memories. Hold on, so he needs the stars to recover Wilhelm's memories? He already got one, so at least there are only 4 left. And he needs Serengeti to tell him how he died? But doesn't he remember? Wasn't he the character? I'm confused. Anyway, he tells everyone to leave the room because he needs to talk to Serengeti. Outside, Weiser calls Hudson over, wanting to know what this is about him proposing to Serengeti in secret. Hudson apologizes, saying he really did take too long to come forward. Then Weiser says that either way he's grateful Hudson went that far for her. But still, does that mean from now on he won't be allowed to see her anymore? That's insane. Hudson is the one who brought the protagonist. I mean, technically that's what happened, so show him some respect. Hudson's there fighting for the skinny girl, saying he knows he doesn't deserve her, but he'll become a man who. Then Weiser cuts him off, saying that's not why he doesn't like him. The big expeditions cost them a fortune. Restoring the knights and treating Serengeti took an enormous amount of money. In the end, after the territory's funds ran out, they started asking every house for help. When that happened, the Duke of House Sienz came to him, someone powerful enough to rival a king. He sent an absurd amount of money with one condition: Serengeti had to be sent to him. So basically, he sold his daughter to save her, and I don't even know what to say. Since the father was terrified she'd never wake up, he accepted the offer, and in a month she'll be sent to that house. It's an unavoidable decision he has to make to protect the territory and protect her. So Hudson should forget her too. Meanwhile, inside, Serengeti asks the protagonist who he is. He says he's the successor of Knight Wilhelm, and he's here to bring news about Wilhelm's final moments. Serengeti tells him to stop lying. Wilhelm doesn't have a successor. The protagonist realizes Wilhelm's reputation in his past life was so legendary that it's hard for anyone to believe this. So he says, the day you faced that star, you were afraid that if you absorbed it and transcended, you'd stop being Serengeti. Poor girl, just a terrified skeleton. He says back then she couldn't understand the anxiety inside her. But now, thinking clearly, she's probably realized what she was really afraid of was losing the love she had for Hudson. Of course, she says only she and Wilhelm should know that, so how does he know? Then the protagonist says, that was the day I gave you words of encouragement. She remembers him yelling, "Serengeti, hurry up you little goat, stop stalling." And then he kicked her, and she got launched. Then she starts thinking he isn't just the successor, and through tears she asks if he's Wilhelm. And the protagonist reveals, "Yeah, I look different. Stuff happened, but yes, it's me." Apparently, since the protagonist was a player, he doesn't remember their conversation exactly. All he did was spam 26 emojis and then kick her so she'd go already. But thanks to the memories he's receiving, he can remember the scene vividly, and remembers she hesitated. Either way, the actions and the encouragement weren't really him. They were things that reflected the personality of the character he created. What a mess. She says that guy wasn't the type to casually chat with people. So not only did he change his appearance, he became a sinner. He says he's just grateful she believes him. And yeah, that's basically it. She warns him he'll have to be really careful with the hunters, the people who go around killing players. Got it. Players who keep memories after death are sinners. And the NPCs called hunters hate them more than any other type. The protagonist says there's something he wants to ask about his final moments. That day he's sure he killed the Demon King. He used the path of light right through the creature's core and its body started collapsing. But at the last instant, everything suddenly stopped. That's when his consciousness got cut off and the game ended. It was so abrupt, so he wants the truth. What happened behind his death? The next chapter tells a bit about that invasion where the protagonist led 200,000 elite troops, all with the ambition of becoming the heroes who ended the Demon King. With all the info they had, they prepared the most meticulous operation possible. In theory, everything was perfect, and it should have been perfect. Then we see Serengeti kneeling in the middle of a pile of bodies. A priestess, super wholesome looking, begs them to keep moving forward, since that blessing cost her life. Another human, completely torn up, says it's frustrating, but that's his limit. Another one, melting into the ground, says they don't have time, they have to keep going. So they kept going, pushing forward, leaving everyone behind. Not leaving like abandoning them. They were dead. Basically, they had to use their friends' bodies as stepping stones to continue. Then a bunch more zombies start crawling out of the ground. Serengeti says something attacked them like it knew every move they'd make, and to her that made no sense unless there was a traitor inside the Demon King's lair. In the end, the operation started collapsing because of the members. But someone says it's not over yet and tears through everything, heads flying everywhere, and the aura shaper says they look exhausted. They can rest for a second because soon it would all be over. To Serengeti, the Night King is like a god on earth. You could tell that when he charged ahead, you almost felt bad for the demons. One slash from him would destroy and reshape the terrain. When she felt the most desperate, that man cut through everything like it was nothing. She tells him there's no reason for him to do this. Her body already recovered. So yeah, he'd been helping her, saying he was just helping her get her stamina back, but still, who else survived? And she says that aside from the two of them and the people who went back to the entrance, you could call it total annihilation. The protagonist says if that's the case, then at the very least she has to survive and return, because she cried every night saying she wanted to find Hudson. She says she didn't cry a single night, but she promises she'll go back and find him. But then a strange circle appeared at their feet. The protagonist smiled, swung his arm out, shoved her away, and warned her this game isn't that easy. She calls out to him, asking what he's doing, and he just says when she gets back she should get married or fall in love, whatever, but she needs to live a good life. In that moment, Serengeti knew the expedition was a failure, but she had a chance to get out and keep living. Nobody would ever blame her. This was a horrific battle everyone believed was impossible, and if she returned now, she'd have a chance to meet the man she loves. But then she remembers the friends left behind, remembers Hudson, and apologizes. And yeah, she messed up. She used a position swap at the same time. An explosion went off. So that's what happened. They stepped on a trap. It activated, the protagonist pushed her away, and she swapped places with him. And now she's there, collapsed like a sack of cement with no legs. She says she got lucky to at least be alive. Her body didn't disappear, but yeah, let's just say she's not playing soccer anymore. The protagonist keeps thinking that in the game, things weren't that dramatic. It was just a screen. She says that after that, Wilhelm put on a talisman that perfectly hid her body. And because of that, she was able to watch the whole fight against the Demon King all the way to the end. Then he says, yeah, I remember up to that part, my daughter. What I want to know is what happened after that. She says yes, right after that, the Demon King revealed himself. And exactly like he remembers, the Demon King was killed. But then, all of a sudden, for a moment, it was like Wilhelm and time stopped together. Everything froze while the sun trembled. The skull-faced Demon King says the boy was a monster. Even if he was a 5-star transcendental, he shouldn't have made it that far without a goddess's authority. But that was his mistake. Without the authority, he can destroy flesh, but he can't destroy the essence. He pays his respects to that so-called Night King, and with that respect, he's going to use his body now as a vessel. So basically, the protagonist didn't have the GM's permission to kill the final boss. A gale of black energy, a golden explosion, and suddenly an angel appears. Hold on, plot twist. The skull guy is saying, you bastard, you're forbidden to take that knight's side now just because he's carrying those stars. How can you call yourself a goddess? Then the protagonist's body drops to the ground while the Demon King seems to die, screaming that he's going to kill that Pina. Okay, I'm still confused. I don't really know what happened, but Serengeti says, well, that's it. She doesn't remember anything after that. The protagonist gets it. The Demon King tried to take Wilhelm's body and the goddess Pina stepped in. But why did she do that, and why did she also seem interested in the stars? Scene cuts to the Knight's Garden, where a guy is bored out of his mind, saying it's insanely dull here, and why do they have to keep watching this region? The bald guy says, because the territory's going broke, there aren't enough people to work these jobs, so we have to keep doing a ton of overtime. The guy agrees, but then suddenly he stops. He just goes quiet mid-sentence. Then this huge cloud of smoke starts rolling in, and he freaks out. A whole swarm of monsters is charging straight at them. Wow, love a good castle invasion. That old-school tower defense vibe, perfect for dropping a like on this video that helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers. Activate the cheeky little bell and I'm out.